Hi, and welcome to my additional videos to support you in your calligraphy journey. This video is going to be focused on spacing. I'm going to talk about the standard spacing between letters and then how we can custom and modify the spacing to obtain different look and feels. First of all, if you're a total beginner, you probably don't want to be here right now. You probably want to go to my playlist and find the collection called Intro to Copperplate Calligraphy, where I touch on many foundational knowledge. If you're an intermediate student, welcome. You already know a little bit of the knowledge regarding copperplate, and I'm going to expand your knowledge with this video. If you need blank calligraphy guidelines, you can follow the link on my bio on Instagram, and it's gonna take you to my Substack newsletter. And once you subscribe, you will receive an automatic email from Substack with the link to download the blank guidelines. Excellent. So what am I using today in here? Today I'm using oblique pen holder and hand 101. So this is my go-to tools at the moment. And in here I have walnut ink, which is also my go-to for practicing. So let's go, and I'll place a paper and we'll start slowly. Okay, let's go in. Yeah, I'm gonna put all the documents together. I'm gonna attach my blank paper to my guidelines. And from here, I'm ready to go. You can still see my lines underneath. So that's what I normally do for my own practice. So I'm going to be using also a red pen, and then I'm going to be talking about a few concepts. So we are going to start with the word not. And I'll explain a few things about spacing and width. So in the lowercase alphabet, let's go with the pen, actually. In the lowercase alphabet, almost every letter of the alphabet have a very consistent width. That means once we have set up the width of a letter N, everything else will follow. And this is really good because the counter space of my N determines the space between letters. So we create this beautiful pattern where the spaces between and the spaces inside the letters are all very similar. So a space between the letters, counter. Okay, so the counter informs a space between every letter in the space between the letter forms. So now what you're seeing at the moment in here, let me focus again. It's a monoline, word. So now we are gonna be adding contrast. So I'm gonna use my pointed pen and I'm gonna repeat the same idea. So I'm going up thin, I'm going down thick, and if you watch my video on contrast, you will know more about the amount of thickness that you want to accomplish. Okay. Now, the difference between the word on the left and the word on the right is obviously the contrast. The second difference is that now we don't have the same concepts as we have in here. And what I mean by that is, like, in this case, the counter space equals the width of the letter form. In here, we don't have the same idea because one thing is the entire width of the letter form in contrast with the counter space inside the letter form. So now you can see that the difference, and let's put a letter C in here, very small, that now are not really the same. So the more contrast we want to add into our letter forms, the more difference between the width of the letter and the counterform that we have in here. Okay, so as a general rule, I'm going back to my pointed pen, sorry, my ballpoint pen. As a general rule, I'm gonna say that if we are writing, for example, the word mom, and the width of my M, or the width of the first arch of the M determines the width of my other letters, and I try to be consistent. Okay. What I'm creating in here, in every arch of my M, is an oval look and feel. And this oval, it's going to be translated in most of our letter forms. Cool. Now, what I just explained a second ago is that obviously what happens inside determines what happens in between. So that means that the space between my letters are also going to be very similar. When we translate this knowledge in, to the run letters, for example, the word Google, it applies the same idea. So I create my oval, and then second oval, third, fourth, a almost spelling mistake, which is so easy to do. Exit. Okay, in this case, as you can see, this oval that appears in here informs what happens here, informs obviously these ovals, and again informs here. So it's all related to each other. And the space in between my letters, basically, as you can see, are more or less another oval. Obviously, if we change the ratio of the, if we change the ratio of this grid, obviously things are going to change. But currently, I'm using in here the regular ratio, which is 2 units, 1 unit, and 2 units. Okay. Now, let's modify this. So we can start by using, again, a blue pointed pen. And now I'm going to write the word Tuesday. And I'm going to go to a new line because maybe I need more space. And then in here, I'm going to start to decide that the space that I'm going to use is going to be larger, and see what happens when modifying this. So if I write the word Tuesday, I'm going to start with capital T. Okay. And then I'm going to first write the word with the regular spacing. So the U, and then the E, and my S, A, and the Y. Again, let's have a look. So what happens in between, and what happens inside and in between, and we have this very, very good rhythm by applying the same principles across everywhere. Okay, now let's open up the spacing. So in here, a very good way to start getting familiarized with opening up the space between our letters is that you can use a pencil and start visualizing double or triple the spacing. So if I use a pencil in here now, And I know that, okay, the regular spacing is one oval, or what I called like a Lebanese cucumber. Let's place two ovals in here. So I know now that the start of my letter comes here. What is good is that I visualize that the space inside remains the same. I'm just doubling up the space in between. Okay, and from here, I go down. And I keep going like that. And then it's going to help me to get a uniform double spacing. Okay, and then from here, and I do that again. Now, actually in here, I already have one. So I have to go all the way here. So this exit actually opens up like that. And I need to do the same for the next one. Okay. Things I want to decide. So when we use the regular spacing, if I have this combination of letters, like I did in here, I will tell you if I have to give you feedback on your work, I would say to you, between the A and the Y, there is a connection. This type of connection, it's an undercurve and an overcurve, and there is a line in between. This line in between is going to make the space between this pair of letters just a tiny bit bigger because we have an extra line. And then to compensate with that extra line, cutting the space in half, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. The other thing I'm going to say is that this extra line, this connection between the A and the Y, I want this line more or less cutting the space in half. Okay, so that's what I would say to you. That means in here, when I have to join, just a sec, when I have to join the pair of the A with the Y, I would approach this in the same way. So if I know I have this connection, I'm going to make sure that now I create the connection in this matter, so that what I want to see is that the space of the connection on both sides are mostly equal. Okay. This is a good way to start getting familiarized with the idea of opening up the spacing in between. Now, let's translate this with the ink and the pointed pen. Okay. Let's go into a new line. It is good if you want to use pencil. I use pencil a lot of the times, so I don't feel so lost. So a good way is actually getting an idea of what this word is going to look like. And of course, then I can change it as I'm doing it. But it is very good to have a very good idea of what is the word and what's the spacing I need. Very narrow, double the space between my pair of letters. Now I'm doing it by eye. And once I have this draft, which I hope you can see on the screen, then I can still modify things and change everything if there is something that I don't like it or that I prefer to change it. Once I have this sketched, then I can totally use my pointed pen and ink. And while I'm inking, I can take a decision and change whatever the sketch looks like underneath because it's not set on stone. So I'm starting here for letter T. So I start really thin and apply pressure. Let me dip ink again. Thin, down. Now start thin. If I don't follow exactly the mark I have on the pencil underneath, it's totally okay. This mark is just to give me a rough idea of what's happening. It's not just for me to emulate 100% everything that's going on. So thin and down. I will enlarge the exit to keep the same vibe and same angle of the connection of every letter. So just to give it a lot of air. Obviously, you can increase the spacing as much as needed. In here, there is another example that I did, where you can see, again, the space between letters is slightly bigger than the example I have just showed you, and how the look and feel of this exercise is gonna give us. So it's really airy. Maybe it starts to get closer to modern calligraphy, although this is something that I don't myself practice, but you can see how you can modify the look and feel of the word just by increasing spacing. I find that another trick you can look into is that if you decided to reduce the width of the letters very much, like reduce the speed reduce the width dramatically, then you can increase the spacing even more. And so the contrast between a very narrow letter form and a really wide space between letters can be also very interesting. So this is just good exercise to keep an eye. If you need to polish first your classic spacing, work on that first. And once you optically have it, then start experimenting with adding extra space to see how airy and light your copperplate writing can look like. Excellent. I hope this was very helpful. Thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions.